Hello, this is Keisha Martinez for Center for Orthopedic Specialists, and this is the ICD-10 training for the front office, back office, surgery scheduling, and scribes. There's been a lot of discussion about this looming ICD-10 implementation. So what is it exactly? Well, ICD is the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems. We know it as the systems that providers and support staff use to code all of our diagnoses and symptoms. The current version that we utilize is called ICD-9, and ICD-10 is an updated version of this. It's the 10th revision, and it will go into effect on October 1st, 2015. So everyone is probably thinking, along with the rest of the healthcare community, why do we have to go through this huge undertaking with all of its potential pitfalls and hassles? Well, for one, ICD-9 is outdated, plain and simple. The United States is way behind the ball in diagnostic coding. It's time we catch up with the rest of the global health community. The ICD-10 selection is vastly improved over ICD-9. Diagnosing is going to become, from a coding standpoint, is going to become much more detail-oriented. So let's take a closer look at the coding structure differences between the two systems, ICD-9 and ICD-10. ICD-9 is a 3 to 5 character code. The first being alpha, E or V, which is our late effects or accident codes. 2 through 5 are numeric, the decimals after the third digit. An example is 813.22. In ICD-10, we'll be moving to a 3 to 7 digit code. The first character being alpha, the second numeric. 3 through 7 can be alpha or numeric. The decimal stays the same. And the example I've given is a crosswalk from the closed fracture shaft of ulna, 813.22, to the ICD-10 code of S52.211A. As you can see, it's a much more specific description for going from closed fracture shaft of ulna to green stick fracture of shaft of right ulna, initial encounter for closed fracture. Take a closer look at the ICD-10 structure. We're going to utilize S86.011A as our coding example. The first 3 characters in the coding structure are the category. The category is the disease, underlying or related condition, and it's followed by a decimal point. The next 3 digits, 4, 5, and 6, are the clinical details, such as etiology, the cause of the disease, its severity, anatomical location, and other vital details like laterality. In our example of S86.011A, the category of S would be the injury, poisoning, and certain other consequences of external causes related to a single body region. S86 then becomes injury of muscle, fascia, and tendon at lower leg. S86.0 becomes injury of Achilles tendon. S86.01 is strain of Achilles tendon, and S86.011 is strain of right Achilles tendon. As you can see, as the digits are added, it becomes a more specific code. The 7th digit is an extension, and it can change the meaning of the descriptor. In this case, the A stands for initial encounter. So for injuries and external causes, we have 3 choices. We have the initial and subsequent encounters, and we have the S character for conditions that are a consequence of a previous disease or injury. For fractures, we have 2 initial encounters for either open or closed fracture, and then we have 4 subsequent encounters for routine healing, delayed healing, non-union, and malunion. And again, we have the consequence of previous disease or injury with the sequela. Now, in terms of ICD-10, the orthopedic specialty has really undergone one of the greatest overhauls, and that's mostly due to our fracture codes. There are still some codes within shoulder and knee that are going to be code-to-code mapping, and maybe some that are still somewhat unspecified. However, there's a code for just about everything within the new ICD-10, and to try and remember all of those codes would really be virtually impossible. Now, thankfully, eClinicalWorks has provided us with a few tools that we can utilize to help transition from ICD-9 to ICD-10. One of those tools is found under the billing band, ICD, ICD-9 to ICD-10 conversion utility. You simply need to plug in your ICD-9 code, click Map to ICD-10, and the system will return a list of choices that are mapped out in the new ICD-10 coding format. This functionality can also be found in the assessment screen of the progress note. Select Auto Map to ICD-10. This is a box that needs to be checked each and every time. I can navigate over to an assessment category, or I can enter in an ICD-9 code manually. I'm going to select hand and closed fracture of metacarpal bone. The system will display a list of ICD-10 codes from which I can choose from. And you'll notice here that there are only scenarios presented for an initial encounter. Now, we know with fractures in general, there are also encounters for subsequent and sequela. So this is a somewhat limited mapping. Thankfully, there's another program that we've integrated with to provide a more robust mapping from ICD-9 to ICD-10, and that is called Smart Search. It's provided by a company by the name of IMO. And what's great about IMO is it's really built for clinicians. More specifically, it helps build clinically relevant terminology with reimbursement coding standards. Physicians can search through data and also select ICD-9 and ICD-10 codes by utilizing synonyms, acronyms, abbreviations, and common misspellings even to locate the most appropriate code. In order to enable Smart Search, you simply need to click Smart Search hyperlink, click Use ICD-10, and type in your search parameters. In this case, I'm going to type in closed fracture of meta bone. As you can see, I didn't need to type out the whole description. I click Go, and I'm given a list of both ICD-9 and ICD-10 codes. Any codes that are in blue are hyperlinks. And the hyperlink will lead you into a module that helps narrow down the code to the highest level of specificity. So in this case, it was an initial encounter. I can select the bone, the location, the alignment, the morphology, and the laterality, and the code will be narrowed down to the highest level of specificity. In this case, S62.232A. I simply need to select that code, and it'll be pulled into my assessments and over into the progress note. This functionality is also found in the claim and is available to the billers. One thing to note about Smart Search is that it is a sticky function. So once you've selected Smart Search, it'll always be there when you go into assessments. So if you're looking for your assessment categories, you need to switch back to Classic Search. And with Classic Search, again, you're using the auto map to ICD-10. As you can see, it's a very simple process, and I think that it will help us transition to ICD-10 much more smoothly and with less headache. The assessment screen can be reached through a variety of methods. For the scribes, it'll be located under the problem list in the progress note. For surgery scheduling and front office authorizations coordinators, it will be found under the referral screen down at the bottom left-hand corner, diagnosis. Click the Add button and you'll be taken to the assessment screen where you can utilize the GEMS mapping and also the IMO Smart Search. One of the key components of coding in ICD-10 is proper and detailed clinical documentation. Now, this is something that we should be doing all along, but with ICD-10 it's really important. Here are some things that the physicians can include in their documentations in order to help code to the highest level of specificity. Type, severity, episode, temporal factors, findings, manifestation, cause associated with, agent, location, laterality, anatomy, time parameters, infectious agent, remission status, associated conditions, contributing factors, and history of. So who will facilitate this ICD-10 transition? We have created a committee, and each department has been assigned a liaison. This will be the person you will report to with any questions or concerns, and the liaisons will meet together as a group to discuss those issues. And with that, this concludes the ICD-10 training for the billing department. Thank you.